Alright, welcome back to the tutorial series. In this video, we're actually going to do JavaScript, which is, in my opinion, probably the most fun part. But just before we start that, let's do a review. So in the previous video, I made some changes after we almost finished the video to make the website look better, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So essentially, I didn't change much except show some better colors. For example, the green color. Let's see. Yeah, background color. This is a color. It's a hexadecimal color, and also I put it on the button, so the background for this button, and also the background for these like headers, like big headers. So it isn't too complicated. Another thing is that I added a border to the table right here. So all you need to do for that is just to select table, add a border, and also I selected the TD and TH, which are the table cells and the table header cells, I guess. But yeah, I just added some a little border to that, and that looks much better. Another thing I did is I went to Console.log again. I just basically went to Google Fonts. I picked a nice font. It's called Playfair Display apparently, but I just applied it onto the header, and that essentially works. Okay, so now let's get started with the JavaScript. Alright, make a new file, let's save it, or you can name it anything we want, just like script, I don't know, .js, it has to end in JS for JavaScript. Alright, now we can write stuff, but before we do that, like the same with style sheet, we have to link this kind of to the HTML, so the HTML, like the browser knows that it exists, and we use the script tag. This time it's src instead of href. I actually don't know why, but it is. Let's just name script.js. Again, you can name it whatever you want, and you have to close the tag. This time, unlike the previous one where you don't have to close it, this time you have to. Alright, so script.js. And before we get started with the JavaScript, just know that there's no way I can like teach you how to do like all of programming in like 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 15. So I would recommend before you get started, like you can just for example, I made some videos, like a series of 4 videos just for JavaScript, and you can look at that. But or you can just like find some amazing videos on YouTube. Just find somewhere to learn a bit. But if you don't, that's also fun. I'm just basically to show you what you can do. And the important part is show you how to like interact with the elements. So the first thing we're going to do is console.log. Console.log, and so you can see the parentheses, and I'm going to put quotes, and I'm going to say hello. And essentially what it does is it prints hello here. You can put anything, hello world, and you can see on the bottom it prints hello world when the page loads. Alright, that's great. And you see that I put it in quotes, and why is that? And if I say hello world like this, it will say it gives an error because it does an unexpected identifier world. Because it will think that hello world is some sort of command, and if you put it in quotes, it treats it as a piece of text. And it's actually called a string. Alright. You can also put numbers in without quotes, so you can say 1. 1 plus 1, it will give you 2. 1 times 1. Let's say 1 times 3 times 2, that would be 6. Alright, 3 divided by 2, 1.5, great. So basically you can also do math here. And you can also mix 2 types. So for example, plus hello plus 123. So 123 plus hello, it actually just converts the 123 into text. Alright, there are these 2 types of variables. You can now learn how to do variables. So variables are basically the same thing in math, they store a bit of some sort of value. And you can name it anything you want that it can't have a space, that's what I'm saying. And so the way you can do that, you can name it something like number equals 1, 2, 3. You can name it anything you want. You can name it where greeting, I don't know, equals hello. And now you can see that if you put number here, it will print 1, 2, 3. If you put greeting, it will print hello. And essentially it just substitutes or puts the value of the variable here. You don't put it in quotes because then it was treated as a piece of text and literally print out number. Right, so why are variables helpful? Because if you want to print something out, I don't know, let's say twice. I'm just going to select this line. Twice, I don't know why, but if you want to print something out twice, for example, it will print 1 to 3, 1 to 3. And if you want to change this, both places change. So it's using the variable. You can also change the variable. So for example, if you say number, and then you can say equals number plus 1. And why you can do this? Because it seems like a very mathematically incorrect thing, but in programming, the equal sign is actually the assignment operator, which means that it just takes whatever value is on the right side and just puts it into whatever is on the other side. And so basically it changes number to be number plus 1, which means it is 12, and then it becomes 12 plus 1, which is 13, and it prints 13. A shortcut, because people do this a lot, to like add stuff by 1, you can actually just say plus equals 1. So that basically increases it by some number. You can also do minus equal to divide it by some number. You can say times equals to multiply it by some number, and it's 120 now. So yeah, you can do operations to that. And you can also say number equals number plus greeting. So what would happen if you have two numbers? Now it says 12 plus hello. And essentially this is what we saw before, where it converted 12 to a piece of string, and now it is like a piece of text. And yeah, so these are two types. One of them is number and one of them is string. Number is for numbers, string is for words. And then there's another type called Booleans. And I'm just going to name it Boolean equals true. So it has the value of true, or it can have the value of false. And keep in mind, these two are not pieces of text. It's not the text true. It is literally the meaning is of like true. So basically, you can see it highlighted, and the only values you can have is true or false. So the way that this is useful is that you can use it for conditionals, and also just like how we use operations on numbers where we can do plus 1, you can actually do plus 1 here and equals 2, where it converts automatically true to true to 1 and false to 0. But what you can actually do is like logic operations. So for example, if you use two of these like ampersand signs, true and false, then it will give you false. If both of them is true, then it will give you true, and only if both of them is true. And you can also have or. So if one of them is true, so if false or true. So the way to think about this is that there's two expressions. So for example, if you want to say like determine when you want to go outside or something, it's like if it is Sunday and it is not raining, then you go outside, for example. So if both things are true, it's and or you can say that if it's like if it is sunny outside, or if the temperature is very warm or something, you will go outside. I don't know, but so like that's the difference between or and this. So you can also do an exclamation mark, which basically flips it. And in Minecraft, this is the same as putting a redstone torch. I don't know why I want to say that, but yeah. Also, you don't just have to do true or false. So what you can say is like, because you can just I'm just gonna put this here. So right, true or false. See, it gives you true. All right, you can put like expressions here, and other stuff that gives you booleans are comparisons. So if 1 equals 1, and we have 2 equal signs because the equal sign here is already taken for assignment, and this is actually comparing if they're equal. So if 1 equals 1, that's true. 1 equals 0, that's false, as you can see here. 1 greater than 0, true. 1 less than 0, false. Right, so you can use these like in very cool ways. Another thing are functions. Functions basically do something. So let's say we define them as function, and then we say whatever, say hello, for example, and then we can just parentheses, and then we put it in brackets, and brackets inside the brackets are where the code is ran. So for example, we can put console.log hello here. Oh, right, okay. So we can say console.log, and then we can just call the function by saying like this. So it says hello, and you can do whatever you want. So like for greeting, you can actually name it the same variable here, and then we can say greeting something, right? Let's say greeting, and now it says something. Okay, and you can also make this like, for example, hello, right? You can just change the variable name to whatever. And a good thing to note is that you cannot access the word hello here because it is only available inside the function. Another thing you can do is to return the variable. So return hello. So what does it do now? It doesn't print anything. But if you actually put this function inside not a print console.log, right? So log, say hello, it gives you something. So basically it returns whatever. You can say return 1, 2, 3 instead of the variable, and it will give you 1, 2, 3. So functions can return, which means you can put it in the expression. So if you do return 1, 2, 3, say hello plus 1, then it would be 1, 2, 4. Another thing you can have are objects. For example, if you want to record some data about a person, for example, you can say name equals, I don't know, Tony, var age equals, I don't know, 13, 14, whatever. Basically, you can have a lot of like different groups of variables that are related. For example, I don't know, just it went some. Let's just use 2 as well for now. But you can actually say var, I don't know, person equal. You put these brackets. Shut up, Siri. Um, like I said, you can put brackets here, and you can say name Bob. Wait, um, name Bob, age 15, and then you can actually console.log this, and what it will give you is person, right? So it says name Bob, age 15. So what if you want just the name? You can say person dot name, and that will give you Bob. Person dot age, that will give you 15. If you want to change it, you can say person dot age equals 610 or something, and it will give you 10. Or you can use the same thing plus equals 1, and that will give you 16. And that is basically all I'm going to do for this, and just to give you a basic idea of how stuff works. But if you want to actually learn more about it, I would definitely recommend you to watch some other videos. Okay, so what we have now is basically enough knowledge to make what we want for this website. So one thing that I want to make is like a calculator for you can input the amount of people you want to have, and then it will output the amount of cheese and the amount of flour that you need. Okay, so to create the input for the amount of like numbers and whatever, you need to do a bit of HTML. So let's just put it right below our table right here. So what we can do is input, right, type. We're just gonna say that the type would be number, the name and the value. We don't currently need that. I believe the value is the initial value. So let's just say 0 for now. And you can see that now it gives you this counter thingy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it does that. And what you can do is for the input, let's just put like a p tag on the above, so it's like amount of people, right? So amount of people, and then we can have another p tag called cups of cheese. I don't know why I use cups, but let's just, and we can just duplicate this line, and then we can say amount of flour. Right. So in order for us to be able to use JavaScript to find the correct one for the correct thing to modify, we have to give it an ID. So we can just say, I don't know, cheese dash amount. Let's just give it an ID of that. And then here we can have yeah, we can do the same thing. Flour dash amount. So we can just give it an ID. And now what we can do is get this ID thingy in JavaScript. So here we can say document. Document is an object that is created by default from the browser. Document.get element by ID. Alright. Get by, and then we can see cheese amount. And now we get the element. So the element is an object and it has a property called inner HTML. So if we say inner HTML equals, right, hello. You can see if we say that, it does nothing. And that's expected because this is null, it's not an object. So basically what it's saying is to saying that this doesn't exist. But what do you mean it doesn't exist? Like you can see that it is definitely here. So here's 2 reasons. Because we put the script tag above it, that actually runs before the page actually loads, which means that it doesn't exist yet because it hasn't loaded. So what we can do here is find the script tag, if we can scroll up, and add the property deferred. So deferred just means run whatever after the page loads, and you can see that now. And it says hello here, and that's great. Another thing we can do is add an event listener, and event listeners are basically window.add event. This is a bit advanced, I would say, but and you can say like window load, and you can just use the arrow function. But I'm not gonna show you exactly, and you can just put this inside these brackets. That will also work. But for now, we can just use defer for this. And now you can see that we get that. Okay, so now let's just go back to the HTML for a second, and let's just find the input, and let's also give that an ID for people, I guess, input, I don't know, like that. So, and what you can do is that there's a special like attribute on the input elements and some other elements called unchanged. So basically it does something on change, and inside these quotes is actually you can run JavaScript here. So you can say console.log and you change, and you have to use single quotes because double quotes are already outside. So yeah, then it will do a bit of conflicting, whatever. But now if you go to the console here, and if you say change, it will console.log change a bunch of times here. So what that means is that here you can run code, and we can just call a function, for example, function update data, I guess, and update data, and then we can just pass in a value for the amount of. So functions, we can, I forgot to tell you this, but like you can put a variable here. So let's say value. Okay, so console.log, we can just console.log the value here now. And what that actually can do is that on here we can update data. We can actually call that function here. So now you can see that it calls a function called we have to pass in the value, and the value would be this dot value, and this basically refers to itself kind of. So this in this context would be the input tag, the input element. So if you do this dot value, it's the value of the input currently. So if you do that, it gives you 1 2 3 4 5, and it reflects the amount that's here. If you type text, it just breaks, but yeah. Alright, and what we can do here now is that we can say document.get element by ID and fetch the cheese amount, and then we can set the inner HTML. So basically the HTML inside equals to be cups of cheese colon, and then we have to put the plus, let's say value that's passed in. So let's just name it that. And now if you change this, you can see cups of cheese 5/4 whatever, like it changes with that. And that's great. And in our table, you can see that it is actually basically the amount of cheese that doubles the amount of people. And now you can see that it does that. And now the cups of cheese is great, and that works. We can just copy and paste this line, and instead of the cheese amount, that's what it says, the flour, the flour amount of flour. And you can see that according to our table, I think it would be each person will have 5 cups. Again, I don't know how to cook. I have no idea if this is accurate, but you can see that this works nicely for 5 people. 10 cups of cheese, 25 cups of flour, and you can change the values, and that will automatically change. And if it gives a huge number, it also calculates perfectly. And that is where I'm going to end the video, because I'm just going to show you that I'm just using JavaScript to show you a little bit about what you can do, but I'm not going to get nowhere near where all that you can do. So I will encourage you to explore more on your own and watch other tutorials. But thanks for watching, and see you next time. And if you like this video, please subscribe and give it a like.